one.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And boy, do we have a topic for you today. I've always been sort of interested in archaeology. How are they able to learn so much about the past by finding little bones and rocks and God knows what else? There's a science to it. But that's all nothing compared to what people are able to dig up on the internet about transgressions committed in the past. Speaking of archaeology and past civilizations, the ancient Mayans, well, maybe not even ancient, just the Mayans predicted, or I don't know if they predicted, their calendar, I think, ended in what we call the year 2012. Is that about right? Their calendar sort of projected this season, this year, whatever, and it all ended in what we consider 2012 or something like that. So back when I was your age, people always said, oh, the world might end in the year 2012, and the early days of the internet and YouTube had all these special documentaries, how science confirms, scientists have admitted, they've agreed that, that there's impending doom in the year 2012. And, as we can see, the world didn't end in 2012, at least not the way we thought it would. In 2012 and around that time, people got on this fairly new website called twitter.com, and they just said whatever the hell passed through their head. And today, the world is basically, their world is ending, let's just say. So in a subtle way, the Mayans were always right. I've always said, listen to those people. They get it, although they weren't really able to predict their own demise. But now we realize they purposely allowed, the white man to invade and take over because they knew there would be something called Twitter in the future, and they wanted to be nowhere near that. Here to possibly help me understand history and the current situation, the latest round of controversy surrounding archaeology of Twitter, is a guy who, let me tell you, some of us, we show up with a nice jacket, with a nice shirt. This guy, he's wearing a t-shirt. This guy, this guy plays by his own rules. And that's exactly the kind of rebellious spirit that we're going to need if we're going to fight back against these cockroaches in the culture. Please welcome Nikos Sotirakopoulos.
Thank you. So yesterday I was criticized for wearing a suit, so nothing is ever good enough. So let's promise the audience something. This is not going to be one of the things, political correctness has gone mad. We're going to penetrate the topic a bit more, and we're going to try to see a bit further than that. Also because together with the story, so first of all, let's give the context. So Ollie Robinson is a cricket player, and he made his debut in the national team. So it was a very important day for him. So at the same day where he made his debut, there were some tweets that were, quote, unearthed. As if magically after the rain, you see from the ground some tweets coming out. And these tweets were from 2012, 2013, when he was around 18 years old. Some of these tweets look like they're embarrassing. Some of them are racist, sexist. Mostly it's a banter of an 18-year-old who apparently, hasn't found his way through life. He wants to play tough and all that stuff. I've done way more than when I was 18, but that's not the case. So I don't want to say, oh, he was young. Okay, this has been said 1 million times. Anyway, I want to focus on something else, what I found very interesting. Oh, sorry. So let's give the story first. So then he apologized in one of these videos that look like you're a prisoner of war in North Vietnam. So, you look completely defeated, and you read a prescripted thing about how you regret, how hurt you are, and how you have educated yourself and how you work towards educating yourself. Now, unfortunately, this public apology, this ritual, because that's how we should see it, this ritual did not work, and he was axed from the team anyway. So a couple of interesting things already before we go on. The first thing that I found very interesting is that the tweet, quote, emerged on the day that he made his debut, on the day of his biggest achievement in his life, in his professional life, so to speak. This is done. And then we find out today, was in the news, that there's one more player whose tweets are under examination, but this time it's his tweets from when he was 16, not from when he was 18. So my first question is this: who is this person? What type of person must you be? How much free time you must have? How dark must your soul be? That in the day that someone makes his debut in the national team, you go back 9 years to find, and notice, most of these were not tweets, they were replies to tweets. So that person must have been very, very, very eager to find him. So this is my first comment. This does not, let's say, this does not say anything about the athlete. Maybe the athlete deserves, I don't know, moral condemnation, all that stuff. I'm just very curious, why would someone do that? And what type of Iago are you as a person? Like, I would be very interested to meet that person in real life, see how happy you're with your life, how you deal with your life, what type of person you are to hang out with. I'm very, 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 very curious about that. Let me say a bit more of facts, and then you're gonna jump in. I found very interesting some of the comments around the case. So, why did the federation, the English cricket board, suspended him? So they said that there has to be a disciplinary investigation. And my question is, a disciplinary investigation on what exactly? We know the tweets, we've seen the tweets. What does it mean, a disciplinary investigation? Are you going to interview people around him, see if he's a good person? Maybe you are going to go back in 2020 and see if he posted stuff about BLM, or maybe he was happy for Biden and Kamala Harris, in which case maybe we can cut him some slack. What does this mean that we're going to do this investigation? Another thing that I found very interesting, what did the teammate say? He said, okay, he's going through stuff, he apologizes, but he, quote, he has to learn some hard lessons. What are the hard lessons he must learn 9 years ago? And how is it that by basically taking away the biggest professional moment of one's life, is it going to make that person a better person? So what exactly are the lessons there? So these are the questions I have. So these type of issues have become such a meme that everyone is dealing them completely superficially, that I find it interesting getting a bit into the narrative and trying to see how empty all this is. And we're going to hear from Rucka. And then I've also want to see an article that was pro the suspension, an article from The Guardian, and try to get a bit into their arguments and see how they view the case, because I found it also very interesting. Rucka.
First, thank you, Jonathan Honig, for the super chat. A picture of a dog, a picture of a pride rainbow. And he says, I said some things on high school radio shows in the 1990s I ain't proud of. Well, I am proud of you, Jonathan, for admitting that. Jeff, with Canadian $3, asks, how's it going? Well, could be better considering what's happening in the world. You know, this whole question of like, you know, what type of person goes and digs this stuff up? There used to be some kind of like embarrassment of being that guy, I think. Like people wanted to be cool. They wanted to be seen as easygoing. Like somebody would say, hey, look, I'm impossible to offend, believe me. But this joke right here, I think, you know, we just got to think about it if this is okay. Something like that's how people used to frame it. Nowadays, it's like people are like proud of the fact that they're offended by stuff, and they're I mean, it's like, and everyone needs to be impeccably clean. Everybody needs to be in line with this, you know, religion of, what are you going to call it? Political correctness or critical race theory? You know, I mean, it's, the internet was supposed to.
That's what I'm getting at, Rucka. It's so shallow. There's nothing there. So if you see all the official communiques, there's nothing there. It doesn't say, oh, you need to do this, or we are doing this so that you are punished exactly for this particular thing. And our, it's like it's a ritual of nothingness. That's what I'm not getting. What's the end play here? What are we trying to accomplish here?
I mean, what's the end goal? It's hard to say. I mean, you know, like it's been observed, and you're probably more aware of this than I am, that today's leftists have much less of a positive vision for the future than the communists. So the communists, they, you know, they were obviously causing mass amounts of pain and suffering, but nothing like. But the idea was like there's going to be a payoff. You know, we'll have heaven in future generations or whenever. Today's, you know, leftists, or whatever, however you describe this group of people that are doing this, I mean, I guess maybe if you push them, they'll say, we want equity, we want equality, but like, what does that look like? You know, will there actually be a time when everyone can just literally follow their own judgment and not have to worry about getting canceled? Maybe yes, because they'll be educated, you know, and that's the big thing. You need to be educated. You need to be told, here's what's going on vis-a-vis race inequality, where so like blacks are being oppressed because of the thoughts in the minds of white people, the way that white people, let's say, profile and discriminate unknowingly. And of course, it gets much more complex than white versus black. It's able versus disabled, it's gay versus straight, and trans versus cis, and so on. So I guess once everybody's educated, then maybe then people can just live and free and prosper. But of course, that's impossible. No one's ever going to be educated by this ever-changing landscape where people, some people's job is to find new forms of oppression. Just like when it comes to digging up old tweets, there are some people whose literal job that is. I don't mean just, I mean they're getting paid to do that. They find the article, they write the article, and that's literally their job. They have got the hot take, and also their sort of a purpose in life is to educate people, which entails digging through people's trash and finding what they tweeted when they were 18.
But here's what I meant when I said that when I was 18, I did war. So, for example, when I was 18, I was supporting every armed urban guerrilla, aka terrorist leftist group in the world. And I was very vocal about this, and I thought I was on the right side of history, which means that if there was Twitter, I would tweet about all that stuff. Here's the question. If someone would punish me by losing the jobs that I had back then, which were not very significant, but anyway, would I ever change my mind on that? Would I say, oh, you know what? Left-wing terrorism turns out is not the way. I would say, no, this whole society is now against me, so my views are correct. So even if your aim is, we want to make this person seize their mistake, as the teammate said, it still doesn't make sense. Anyway, let's continue, because there are two more very interesting points here. And the first is, how does an article in The Guardian, which is called, Ollie Robinson's England suspension is the right move by the ECB, the English Cricket Board. So here's what I found very interesting. They give us 4 reasons why this was a good idea. None of these 4 makes any sense by any principle. Reason number 1, he said, well, there is no status of limitation. Therefore, we couldn't say he was 18, 19. So they said the federation has no status of limitation. So there's this stupid technicality. Therefore, what can we do? This is like the metaphysical versus the man-made in steroids. Oh, it looks like the board hasn't got a status of limitation. Therefore, yeah, what could you do? Yeah, you have to throw his career. Basically, you have to ruin his career. Second point. Well, there had to be this. He had to be suspended because we need to get the full picture and see whether he has actually changed. And again, what does this mean? What does it mean to see the full picture? If there were other tweets, the Offence archaeologists, they would have found it. What are they going to do? They're going to do truth test. He's going to go through seminars. He's going to do this online quiz, find how anti-racist we are. What does this even mean? Point number 3. Oh, actually, there are 5 points. Point number 3. Sorry, 4. So they say maybe the word suspension is not the right one, because they said he's not suspended. He's put in on the side until they find out what happened. This is 100% the discussion between the wet nurse and Reardon, where the wet nurse says, look, if we don't name the things that we don't like, then the things that we don't like will not exist anymore. So up to this point, we've had, well, there is no law that says that you shouldn't be suspended for all tweets. Well, we need to figure out what is happening here. And third, it's not really a suspension. And here's the weirdest one, which is the 4th one. Well, cricket has a problem because the demographics of professional players at the higher level is not the same as the demographics of people who play cricket recreationally. So basically, because the numbers don't add up, and it might be the case that there is some element of discrimination, though there is 0% proof given about that. This guy is good that he's suspended, although he's not really suspended according to the article, because a message needs to be passed. So this is the salad. This is the conceptual chaos in the mind of people who think that this is a good idea. Which again brings me to the question, what is the aim of someone like that? There is no clear aim. There are no clear principles based on what you're punished. It's just that, well, there seems to be many people think that this is okay. Therefore, a bit of social metaphysics as objectively to say, and we're good. This is what we're having to deal with here.
What did he actually tweet?
Well, he tweeted, yeah, now if I say what he tweeted, I might be in trouble. So he tweeted something about bragging to someone, something like, oh, I'll put it in kind words. Something like your girlfriend likes me more than she likes you. Another tweet, girls should learn some manners. Another thing, I think he had a Muslim friend and he said something, yo, the guy's the bomb. Something else, he said, someone in the train looks like he has Ebola, something like things like that. But so incoherent stuff. And so this is not the guy who's like, yeah, I'm a racist and I'm going to put this racist overview out there. This looked more like drunk text, to be honest. But again, I don't want to cut him slack. The point is not, yeah, these things are not okay. Obviously, when you're 18, you go through this thing. You have to prove how tough you are. Maybe this is how he did it. That's not the way to go through life. But anyway.
So the internet is basically a mistake. I think we can just basically say, because, back in the day, like, people with a certain type of sense of humor can hang out with fellow types of people, edgy people that like to find the edge and they'll go a little bit past it. We could just hang around with each other and we understood that it wasn't serious. It was a joke. And then you had like more of the vanilla types of people, the people who are, God bless them. They're careful what they say and they're very sweet and they don't want to offend each other. And that's great for them. And no one ever had to kind of cross paths. But now with the internet, so at first the internet gave everyone the ability to find their own types of people. And that's good. But now the internet's gotten very centralized. Twitter, I think, is the belly of the beast because you have like journalists, presidents and world leaders and all these like very prominent people all tweeting and like everyone sees it right away. So it's very easy to kind of expose and get traction exposing people. Whereas something like Facebook, let's say, something could go viral where someone's being exposed, but it's still only kind of reaching a certain segment of people. It's not blowing up on the front page of Facebook the same way necessarily. YouTube, it's also pretty, it's also sort of cancel capital YouTube because of how big a video can get. But still YouTube, it only kind of reaches a certain number of people, and a lot of people are blissfully unaware of that. Twitter, though, Twitter is cancel capital. Twitter is where like someone can expose you for something and everyone's kind of aware of it right away. And it's being published by the New York Times right away. And it's being published it's airing on CNN and Fox and everywhere. Everyone's talking about right away. So Twitter really is ground zero of cancel culture. And so now everyone can see what everyone else is doing. So if you and I like doing a podcast where we say kind of offensive things and we know we're joking, but like now the dorks they're releasing news stories about it. And they're like, look at these two bigots. They think it's funny to just sit around and say offensive things. And then someone says, yeah, but they're joking. I go, well, what's the joke? There's no joke. There's no punchline. They're just saying offensive stuff. And this is how careers are ruined, careers devastated. Sounds like the guy was tweeting jokes that were clearly jokes or just kind of a mood he was in.
Tweeting to his friends. And this is what someone said, that was a different time probably for Twitter, where mostly people use Twitter to joke with friends. So there was a time that particularly in some countries, Twitter was not that political. And again, this is not cutting slack to the guy. But Rucka, because we're running out of time, I want to throw another element in the story. So from the morning, and I think for some hours now, from yesterday maybe, a lot of people, because there was some prominent politician who supported the athlete, They said, you people, you conservatives are hypocritical because there was another case of someone with past discretions, mistakes that you did not forgive. And of course, we're talking about Samina Begum. Samina flew to the Islamic State, I think when she was 15. She became, interestingly, I think under peer pressure, she flew there because apparently it was a cool thing. And then she became one of the enforcers of the ISIS morality. So she experienced the horror that ISIS had enforced in its occupied territories, and she was, let's say, an accomplice to that. But she was very young. Last year, she said, you know what, I've changed my mind. Also, I think she was about to give birth, and she said, please let me come back to the United Kingdom. And the UK said, no. And then she went to court, and the court said still no. And a lot of people are saying, look, she made a mistake. She was 15, this guy was 18. Why do you have two different standards? And I want to hear your view. My 5 pence on this is two things. First of all, obviously there's the gravitas of the mistake. But for me, there's something even more than the gravitas of the mistake. It's whether, sorry, not more, but related to that. Are you actually sorry for that mistake? So for example, with Samina, we've seen interviews where she's cutting slack to ISIS, where she's saying, well, the Manchester bombing, yeah, it wasn't cool, but aren't you basically doing the same elsewhere? Or yeah, okay, ISIS, yeah, maybe crucifixion here and there, but basically in many countries you have the same thing. So you get the idea that, do I really want this person back? Like, has this person really changed their mind? So I find it interesting that some offensive tweets were put on the same plate as joining, as they said, the death cult. But I don't want to just dismiss it and say, no, it's not the same. So I want your opinion on that.
I mean, it's sort of, yeah, I mean, you could sort of look at the Arab-Israeli conflict as kind of a microcosm of this. You know, if Israel does one thing that falls short of the right thing to do, it's an outrage. Or even if Israel does the right, you know, if Israel in defense kills civilians in the process of defending itself, that's seen as atrocious. But Hamas can be as openly brutal as they want. Hamas, they basically are ISIS. Maybe they're like a notch more civilized than ISIS, but not much. Hamas or the Palestinians generally are held to a completely different standard, if any standard at all. And so the fact that this young lady was basically on board with ISIS and is still sort of apologizing for them, that does not offend the nihilistic left. It does not offend the egalitarian left, because ISIS, for all of their misogyny, let's say, to put it very lightly, their homophobia, again, to put it very, very lightly, they are non-Western, anti-Western. They are a, quote, indigenous, or however people look at them. They are enemies of capitalism, and that puts them in a completely different category than a basically decent soccer player or cricket player or whoever it is who tweeted something. So going against political correctness or going against egalitarianism, standing up against critical race theory, standing up against the postmodernist trend here in the West is seen as an enormously offensive thing, whereas just, you know, literally ISIS is seen as, you know, more of a mixed case. I mean, and this is, you know, this is the power of philosophy. We've got a few super chats we can read real quick.
Let's go to them.
Bonnie with $5 says their reaction is automatic because they will not recognize that a person can learn, not just regurgitate the common line. I think referring to the archaeologists. Marilyn, thank you for the super chat. And thank you, Jeff, for the $10 Canadian. He says, we forgave Omar Khadr and gave him $10 million. Is that, do you know who Omar is? I'm not, it sounds like an athlete. Sounds like somebody maybe committed violence or tweeted something offensive. Is that,
that doesn't, I don't think it's only that. So why would he say Omar Khadr? Okay. Oh, does he mean Omar Khadr?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, he was in Guantanamo. Anyway, it's a big story. We're gonna check it out, and we're gonna check it out on Clubhouse.
Okay, we're ready to jump over to Clubhouse.
Can I say one last thing on this story? Like, what's my parting thoughts? What I find here is that officially now we don't have standards of right and wrong. We have only one thing: is I'm gonna go by emotion I'm going to go by my tribal affiliation. I feel that this person who joined with the most horrendous movements that we've seen probably since the Nazis, cut some slack, but this, guy, maybe a bit toxic masculine, not cutting some slack. So the sole criteria here is, again, whatever I feel like and whatever my tribal affiliation is, that's where we are. Welcome to where we find ourselves. Okay.
Absolutely. Tribalism is huge and we see it everywhere. I mean, I hate to piss off the audience after I just did a good job of bashing the left. But when I look at PragerU, they're constantly, everything's leftist, the left. Ben Shapiro does a history of the Middle East. He completely leaves out the way that Republican presidents threw Israel under the bus. He completely leaves out how Reagan and Bush and Nixon held a leash on Israel when they could have been defending themselves and assassinating Yasser Arafat, etc. Shapiro completely leaves that out. Prager completely, everything's the left. It's tribalism and it's otherism and it's scapegoating and it's not a pursuit of the truth. So we need to be pursuing the truth. And in doing so, we will offend a lot of people. And let's just hope nobody digs up any of our tweets. Coming up in 32 minutes from now at the bottom of this hour or the top of the next one, Yaron Brook is back for a debate against Greg Scorzo. And they're going to be debating the welfare state, good or bad. We want to know what you think. Please be there. Please comment and super chat your support to express that you want a lot more content like that. So we're looking forward to that. Right now, we're jumping over for a little clubhouse session. We're going to talk about this. I imagine some of you might have something to say. So meet us there. Thank you and goodbye.